Right.
Are we on yours?
Yeah, I like it.
All right.
Right, obviously we're meant to be live 11 o'clock. It is now 11:30. I will take the blame for that. I'm not one for being on time, am I?
No, it's so stressful.
Yeah, so I thought we'd just jump straight in. I think the best way to start it is kind of give our opinions about why couples counselling is probably important. Do you think?
Yeah. Right. Go on, you go first because I wasn't going to spin from that angle.
All right. So, the way I see couples counselling and why I believe it's important is because every single human being has been through some form of trauma, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. And I believe that trauma causes us to protect our heart. And what I mean by that is keep parts of ourselves locked away and safe so we don't have to kind of face rejection. But ultimately, all that does is stop us from actually feeling like fully loved for who we really are. So I believe that couples counselling is really important so that we can not just work through our own individual traumas separately, but come together and find a way to work through our individual traumas as a couple so we can learn to communicate effectively. That's why I think couples counselling is important.
I feel like that's like what I was going to say, but not in so many words. But I just think what I like you were saying about individual trauma and all of that stuff and coming together, I just believe that because I know it's come up in, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, in our relationship where because when two individuals come together, you both have your individual traumas. So those traumas aren't always going to align one with the other, and then you're going to clash. And you know, and that doesn't have to look like, I think when people think that, they think, oh, it's going to be some big crazy cheating story, some big blazing rows, you know, punching walls and all of that stuff. And it's not. You may just hit walls where one person might need some reassurance, yet the other can't give it because of those conflicting traumas. And the triggers, I think, are very important. And I think the conflicting triggers with people's individual trauma is what stops people from communicating effectively.
Yeah.
So, and obviously then communication breakdowns, you stop talking to each other, and then, you know, ultimately that results potentially in people going out, cheating, doing whatever they want, slagging their partner off to their friends, being resentful when they come home from work, and just all that craziness that I don't think it's avoidable. It's avoidable. Yeah. So yeah, I think couples counselling personally, the reason I think that, you know, I think is great and I want to go is because I want to, and it's important for anyone to be able to understand your own triggers, of course, but understand your partner's, so that then when you understand their trauma, you haven't lived it, you haven't experienced it, all you can do is try and understand, and it creates a safe environment to do so. Because when you understand your partner's traumas, you can communicate in a way that they're going to hear you. If you just attack them, which is then triggering, they're not going to hear you. And then again, arguments, chaos, craziness.
That was a perfect explanation, and you brought up a word that is huge for me, and I didn't even realise just how important it is to me in my own personal life, my relational life, and just in general, and that's safety. And to give you some context, and most of you will probably know, but I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness for the first 12 years of my life, and a big part of my trauma as a result of being brought up as a Jehovah's Witness is believing that parts of me are bad. Now, I wasn't even consciously aware of this trauma until I was 29. Obviously, I knew I was... I know. Obviously, I knew I had kind of issues, but didn't really understand why my life was kind of playing out how it was playing out. And over the last few years of working through that specific trauma, I've come to realize that my whole life, I've kind of hid parts of myself, and predominantly my sexuality, just kind of normal, healthy sexuality, but I'd been led to believe made me bad. And, as a young boy, receiving that message, believing that parts of me are bad, growing up has obviously caused me to hide those parts away. And in a relationship, that's what caused me to cheat and be deceitful and, just hurt people that really didn't deserve to be hurt, but it was because I was hurting. And, in this relationship that I'm in now, I'm at a point where, I feel safe enough to be able to start opening up because of how Charis is and who she is. Mm-hmm. And also, a lot of the self-acceptance work that I've done personally has brought me to this point now where I want to start giving Charis the opportunity to actually see these parts of me. Yes, for Charis, but also for me. I want to feel fully loved and accepted by Charis. I've come to terms with who I really am and accepted these parts of myself and are starting to love these parts of myself. Now it's my duty to give my partner the opportunity to also love those parts of me. And unless I actually open up and just say, look, this is me, then I will never feel fully loved. And it's the same for absolutely everyone. The parts of yourself that you hide and reject and abandon will cause you to never feel fully loved because you're not giving your partner the opportunity to actually fully see you. So that's why it's really important for me to go to couples counselling, because I now feel safe enough to be able to open up about these parts of myself.
Yeah. I was just thinking that you're saying my name over and over. I thought, please stop saying that. Like, that sounds weird. Stop saying it. Yeah, totally agree, to be honest. What I wanted to actually speak about in kind of like a discussion basis, like for us, because I know our views, but I think it would be nice for other people to hear them. I should have put a poll on my Instagram yesterday, but I didn't. But last time I checked anyway, I put a poll basically on asking people's opinions on whether they believe that you should go to counselling when there's an issue or before there's an issue. So for prevention or for intervention. And there was a even split actually.
Was it?
Yes. And obviously we were on the prevention side, and and I knew there would be a few people that would say for intervention. And why? Because I think I worded it as, why would you go if you don't need to? Because I know that that's what a lot of people would probably say. Well, why would you go if you don't need to? Why would you go? And I think a lot of that kind of opinion is also formulated. We've gone off a tangent, but let's do it. It's also formulated on the basis of the stigma around counselling as an individual, which is still there anyway, but counselling as a couple, as a couple, as soon as you hear a couple, have you ever been with your friends and then you go with your friends and you go, oh, did you hear so-and-so? They're going to counselling, they're going to couples counselling. And it's like, I can feel it now. Like, I feel like I've been that person in the past, like where you're like, oh my God, well, there must be.
Yeah, what's happened? What's going on in their relationship?
So I don't know, I'm smiling, but it's like, it's because it's funny now, it's childish now to look back on.
Yeah.
Because you do think, what are they going for? There must be something really wrong.
Well, the funny thing is, like, and this is a really important point. Like, everyone says mental health matters. Be kind, but people don't take responsibility for their mental health. But people don't see going to counselling or therapy or coaching or whatever as a priority. They see it as, I don't need it. It's like, no, every single human being needs to speak to someone about their trauma or just their day-to-day stuff. We've all got things that we need to, get off our chest or speak about, or, otherwise we just hold everything in, and that's not healthy.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, just saying on that, I don't think that, well, I'm not saying that I can't speak for you, I'm not saying that everyone in the whole world needs to go to counselling or needs to pay for a therapist or anything like that, but like you were saying, that needs to speak to someone. If you have people in your life, or not even, they don't have to be close people, they can be at arm's length or whatever, but if you have someone in your life that isn't just going to tell you what you want to hear, fantastic. I'm not saying everyone needs to go to counselling and let's all start, crying in therapy rooms and things like that.
That's, I would say they do. but carry on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Because I think the world is too broad and too complex to really comment on if every single person in the whole world has trauma. Because it's so individual, it means so much different things to different people. So I'm not commenting. It sounds too complex, too many factors.
Yeah, but see, and this is the thing: people make like going to see a professional or investing in your mental or emotional health as something that's really big and heavy. You're literally just sat in a room with someone having a conversation about how you feel. What's more important than that? I believe everyone needs to do that. And I believe the reason why there is, like mental health struggles is because people don't do it. And, like you were saying about prevention or intervention, I would actually add another box and, not make it kind of quite so heavy. Obviously, I love those two, either ends of the spectrum. But I would also say that, everyone in the middle.
Well, I did put a depends box, but no one ticked the depends.
Yeah.
Or like dependent. I think I depends.
I should have clicked that.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, yeah, I don't know.
But because, you think about it, how many of us in our day-to-day lives actually have someone that we can sit down with and voice exactly what we're thinking and how we're feeling, and just have that person listen to us or potentially guide us so that we can see different perspectives, and they give us an hour of their undivided attention. Mm. Very rare.
I mean, very few and far between, but let's not eliminate everyone. Like, some people might have those people. Do you know what I mean? That aren't
optimism. I like it.
Yeah, that aren't qualified therapists. And do you know what? Even people, I'm just thinking in regards to like the workplace or schools, colleges, things like that. Sometimes people might have that someone that isn't a therapist in those settings. That isn't. I mean, the workplace is a bit different, but because I think you're depending on the size of the organisation, it's quite intimate. But yeah, I don't know. Going off on one.
I don't know. It's a fine line, because when you the thing that really like I think is the most important thing about counselling or therapy is you're entering into, and I know this term gets bandied around a lot, but a safe space. And what that means is you know that you're safe enough to bring all of you into that space.
I don't think you can say that for everyone, though.
What do you mean?
I don't think that you can say that for everyone, because not everyone will feel like, although rationally we know, and the intention of the counsellor is that safe space, but I don't think we can comment that for every single person, because those people those people with the trauma triggers of, I don't know, distrust and however that came to them in childhood, relationships, whatever, the level of that that trigger and unknown people, unknown spaces, blah 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 blah. Oh, yeah, of course it's going to take. That's probably the place you need to be to heal and to build trust and things like that. But I don't think everyone will categorize it as the same. It is, because it's a judgment-free zone, but I don't think we can say everyone will categorize it as a safe space due to their own traumas, triggers.
Yeah, that's a good point on that. I hadn't seen it like
that. So yeah, but I just want to. I actually want to come back to the prevention, intervention, depends, and actually just we'll touch a bit more on couples counselling and.
Why are we going specifically?
Well, I don't know, kind of, but I just think that. So when I went to counselling individually, the first time I ever went is because I was in intervention mode. I was like, I'm in a crisis. Yeah. I'm in a crisis. I can't. My coping strategies don't work anymore, and I need to go to counselling. So that was from an intervention place. But the second time round that I went, and now the third time round that I'm going, is from a place of intervention. I want to.
Prevention.
I think that Yeah, actually, no. I think the second time I went for intervention. I lied. The third time I went for prevention. Because I know why people think it, but in the most simplest, basic terms, why would you want to wait to get to crisis point before you do something about it? Why would you not want to prevent all the heartache, all the stress, all the emotional damage, and all the collateral damage around it, your relationships, your finances, your job? Why would you not want to prevent all of that hardship? Why do you not? Why do we wait until something really bad's happened?
I believe it's because of the shame that's attached to it. You know, people believe that someone only invests in their mental or emotional health or their relational health because there's a problem. So, and you know, their friends, you know, also have that same belief. Their family have the same belief. Their work colleagues have the same belief. So everyone's reinforcing that belief that you only go if you have like a specific problem.
And I just want to say, actually, I don't want to speak on behalf of, you know, the rest of the country, but especially the UK. I think what also solidifies that, which I get it financially and resources and whatever, but what solidifies that is the lack of resources in the UK in terms of counselling. It doesn't matter, individual couples, whatever. The lack of resources, the lack of funding. You know, we've got some really great charities, really great organisations, but when they're not being government funded and they're literally being held up by fundraising, it can be few and far between. So because the resources are so limited, it solidifies that belief of, well, I can't go because it's not bad enough yet. And those waiting lists, as long as your arm, they are where you will be placed after an assessment on the waiting list is dictated by the severity of your trauma. So if
they either validate or invalidate it.
Yeah, and they don't even mean to do it. It is just it is just trying to, well, to be honest, it's trying to keep as many people alive as possible. Yeah. So we need to get to those ones first. And unfortunately, a lot of people get lost. You know, we lose a lot of people. And I don't know how that figures for the rest of the world, but definitely the UK, it is on that basis. And it's hard.
This is why I think it's so important that we bring light to this topic, because for most of us, and for me personally, I wasn't even aware of my own specific trauma until I was in that crisis moment and I was literally at rock bottom. This is why I think it's important to have these types of conversations so people can actually recognise that, oh shit, maybe I do have some stuff that I need to work through, until they get to that point and then end up going to like some charity organisation or whatever, but can actually take responsibility for, you know, their own stuff now before it reaches that kind of last stage, you know, where it's out of desperation.
Yeah. And I actually want to, I don't know if it's going on a tangent or couples counselling. I think this is just the counselling kind of topic. I also just want to go off on, actually. I say we're limited in resources and counselling and charities and things like that, and we are as a nation. But I think also there's this conception that counselling is really expensive. Yeah. Like, it's really expensive. And yeah, you get some, you know, self-employed counsellors that are expensive. It depends on their niche, whatever it is that they specialise in. But it's not really expensive.
I would say
it's not really expensive.
And this term kind of makes me laugh. I used to use it a few years ago.
Oh, Tracy said hi.
Hello.
I thought someone told us, who is it?
So, counselling or therapy is expensive. Compared to what? What are you comparing it to? It's expensive compared to what? You can't call something expensive unless you have a reference point to compare it to. Yeah, like therapy is expensive compared to a bag of chips, but it's not expensive compared to a night out. So what are you comparing it to? And it all depends on what you prioritise. And I'm sure you've heard this time and time again, but if you prioritize a night out to get off your head, you're prioritizing that over your emotional health. And the most important thing that for me personally was huge was when I could start taking responsibility for the fact that I was using drink and drugs and prioritizing that instead of prioritizing my mental and emotional health.
Mm.
And the reason why I was doing that was because underneath all of that, I didn't believe that I was actually worthy of being loved and being happy and being healthy.
Mm.
So I think it's really, really important that we actually get clear and be brutally honest with ourselves about why we're doing something or not doing something, rather than just saying, can't afford it, it's too expensive.
Yeah. Well, I just want to be an advocate for I feel like I like having these conversations with you because I know how passionate you are about your stuff and your beliefs. And then I come trotting along and I'm like, who? Look at me with my opposing belief.
Well, this is what makes, for a good conversation.
Yeah. I completely agree with what you're saying. However, I do want to advocate for those people that actually, I'm sitting here going, oh, counselling not expensive. And it isn't. Depending on your financial situation as well. That's obviously very dependent. And I'm not saying don't feed your kids for the week, go to therapy. If like the only money you've got is to feed your children or whatever it is, whatever is of your basic needs, I do think therapy obviously is your basic need. Your mental health is a basic need, and everything else will crumble if you don't do something about it. But that's when I think it's fantastic for these charities and organisations, and the wait times might be very long, but I think that is due to the fact that a lot of people don't want to put money into counselling, even if they have it, which the majority of people do. But those people that don't, they end up so far back on a waiting list because someone doesn't want to spend £30 for the hour, which I'm not judging anyone. I did it because when I started, I thought, well, why would I pay for a counsellor? They're so expensive. I'll just go through like the charity organisation, I'll make a little donation and that'll be fine. But realistically, I could have paid for that. And I'm not saying that my experience on my mental health was any less than someone else's, but I was in a position to pay for that where someone else wasn't.
Yeah.
So, something's mad about. So I say counselling isn't expensive. It's very much dependent on your personal circumstance. But yeah, I would urge anyone to get into counselling, but I would really urge you to consider whether you can afford to pay for it. And the thing is, when you're very grateful when you get things for free or whatever. Well, most people are, but when you pay for it as well, I think it's far more rewarding. So yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit passionate on. Actually, I would just urge people, if you can pay for it, please do pay for it and make way for those that are really struggling. Yeah. That can't, because you spending that £30 might be the difference between you not even losing £30, you investing £30 and someone else's life. So I know that sounds really heavy and that sounds really strong, but I would that's how I feel.
At the end of the day, mental and emotional health is life and death.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously doesn't have to be as heavy as that. But last resort, it's life and death. Mm-hmm. Also, and I think this is something that we spoke about a few days ago, I don't know if people are actually aware of the resources that are actually out there to help them mentally and emotionally. Like, I wasn't, and this may sound funny, but I wasn't even fully aware of what counselling actually was until I met you, and you said that you were going to counselling, and it was probably over the space of 2 or 3 years that I was like, actually, yeah, I think if I was to sit in a room with someone and have a conversation, that would really help me. And I think there's probably people out there now that think that it has to be through like the NHS or has to be some charity organisation or there are probably people that don't even realise, just like I didn't, that you can just Google counselling in your area and go and pay someone and start next week. I think for a lot of people, they think it's this huge, like big, heavy thing that you can only do through some kind of organisation.
Mm-hmm. I do think as well, just adding to that, I do think a lot of people, as you were saying, that kind of like naivety to what is out there. I do think that people as well, especially in the UK, we have the NHS. I do think that a lot of people, because mental health obviously comes under medical, comes under health, that a lot of people think that counselling, oh well, I shouldn't have to pay for that because I pay for the NHS. I pay my taxes. I pay my national insurance. I don't know what the NHS is.
It's funny, like.
And I just I'm not judging anyone because I did that as well. Why would I pay for that?
Yeah, I've done exactly the same thing.
It's like it kind of reminds me, just real quick. It kind of reminds me of like prescriptions. I think when I left like full-time education, I thought, God, why have I got to pay for prescriptions? I pay tax.
Do you know what it is? It's a feeling of entitlement. We feel entitled that we feel entitled to health and happiness, and what it really is immaturity. It's basically, being a child and giving up our responsibility to look after ourselves. Essentially, that's what it is. We're looking for the government or someone above us to look after us. And I'm not saying that some people don't need that. I'm not saying that. But for the majority of us that have a smartphone or have internet access or have some money coming in, we can take responsibility for our health and happiness. We can. Mm. It's just we forfeit that because we believe, well, it shouldn't be me that has to pay for healthcare, or it shouldn't be me that has to invest in a counsellor, or like we believe that someone else should do it for us. And I won't go into this, but look at what was just happening in the world over the space of the last 2 years. We all suddenly felt entitled to have some intervention. And I know I know that this is not not an easy topic to talk about, but I think that whatever you're feeling and whatever you're experiencing in your life gives you an opportunity to actually start taking responsibility for all of your life. And the times when I haven't taken responsibility for myself are the times when I was the most miserable.
Mm. Yeah. I feel like I don't know if we've gone off on a tangent. I feel like we're getting too passionate, getting too wah. I feel like we're punch each other in the face.
It's just a conversation, isn't it?
I think we're coming up to our half an hour anyway, because I don't want to waffle on too long. I don't want people to think, oh God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's that fear, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I think you don't realise what you're actually going to bring up, so you kind of you keep that door closed.
Mm. Or I think alternatively, people actually damn right well know what they're going to bring up. And some. They don't know the and some, but they know damn right what they're going to bring up because it's been festering. And they're like, oh, no.
The thing is, unfortunately, when we have this huge fear about, what we're going to bring up, instead of deal with that issue and, however long it takes, weeks or months or whatever, we carry that round with us. So we may not be dealing with it, but we're still struggling with it and we're still suffering for all of our lives, potentially, until you actually open that door and start working through that specific thing. And then you can not let go of it, but it no longer, like, for instance, my childhood trauma, I didn't realise that was the reason why I was cheating and ended up basically homeless in shitloads of debt. But now I do. Now I have an opportunity to start working through it and, not allow that trauma to dictate how my future unfolds. And I don't know if it's people just aren't aware that, they've got stuff that they need to work through, because I think it's funny when people say, well, I don't need that. And I know we differ here, but I believe everyone needs to speak to someone. Or it is just a fear of opening something up that just feels too painful. And either one is completely understandable. I get both sides of that coin. But again, it comes back to what I was saying about taking responsibility and actually choosing how you want your future to play out. Do you want your future to basically be a reflection of your past, or do you want your future to be something that you consciously created? And this is why I think it's so important that we take responsibility.
Yeah, so bringing that back to couples counselling, because we've got like a not talking about couples counselling, but I think it's all very relevant to couples counselling, which is why I feel like we need to like swing it back in. Yeah, obviously, you know, taking responsibility for yourself, fantastic. You're going to be happier. If you're a single person, then fantastic. You're going to be happier. And you're also going to be met with people that mirror that energy and that healing and that work that you've done. You're going to meet the people that you deserve to be with.
Yeah.
And they deserve to be with you. Blah, blah, blah. However, still saying that, there is going to be the differences in your communication styles, the way you live, well, I say lifestyle then, isn't it really?
Yeah.
And just a lot of things. There is going to be a lot of differences, no matter how much work you've done on yourself. Like you can't. I think when we met, I was under the I was quite young, but I was under the impression that but we're doing we're healing our own stuff, so we're gonna be a match made in heaven, and we are. But we're not. We're quite compatible, but we're not completely compatible. You know, sometimes it's like, what is wrong with you? Why aren't you? And that's like, again, exactly what I've just said. Even though I'm just cringing, I've just said it. By saying what is wrong with you or whatever, there's nothing wrong with anyone. And the triggers and things that come up for us that then affect the way that we communicate verbally, even in a behavior sense, whatever it is, that has an effect on the person that you are choosing to share your life with or create a life with. Not just from a trauma perspective, but just anyway. Just anyway.
See, you know, none of us are actually taught how to have healthy relationships. We're not taught. So all we have to go on is our parents. You know, our parents are our direct reference point to what a relationship is.
Well, I think it's our parents, but I also think it's, you know, your friends' parents. When you're around your friends' houses after school, because every household is different. So then you look at your friends' parents, you're like, And I remember as a child, I used to think, God, like what? Why it was two sides of the coin, because it was so my life that it was normal, but then to anyone else, it was like, well, that's not quite right. And I used to think, like, why are my family like that family?
Yeah.
Like my friends' parents or whatever. So I do think, it's our parents. I think it's our friends' parents. I think it's the media. And I don't just mean social media. I mean like films, programs, whatever, books.
Well, society in general tells us that there's basically one way to have a relationship. And because of that, we're all trying to portray that, you know, our relationship is perfect when deep down we're keeping parts of ourselves hidden. And that's what I've done in past relationships. You know, even in this relationship, which is why I want to go to couples counselling, because I have like this ideal of what I want my relationship to look like. Like I've always had this kind of fantasy relationship, you know, like kind of Notebook style, or, you know, some really kind of romantic, like, you know, they're my everything. And, you know, I believe that any type of relationship that you dream of is possible. But it's not about finding a new partner or you know, finding that perfect person. It's not about that. You can only create, take note of that word, create, the type of relationship you want based on how you're both, or however many people are in that relationship, how you're both showing up in that relationship. It's not about getting another partner and, you know, getting rid of your old partner, finding someone better. It's not about that. It's about you being the one, you being better, you being vulnerable enough to actually open up conversations that you feel scared to open up about. It's not about either of you being perfect. It's about both of you recognizing your imperfections and coming together and being able to communicate together and know that you're safe enough to have these types of conversations. And this is where couples counselling comes in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that safety obviously firstly derives from yourself. And I know that's very hard. And I think that I would find that really hard. But I think that what you were just saying about being that person, I think, you know, honesty thrown around there everywhere. And everyone say, honesty is the best policy and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It is. But I mean it on a deeper level, in the respect that if you are honest with your partner, well, mostly at the beginning, so that's a good place to start. But if not at the beginning, if you're honest with your partner and you know and you have the confidence in yourself that you are safe with yourself, you enable your partner the opportunity to, as you've said, to love you and see you, and you give them the chance. You empower them
to open up as well.
Yeah, but also you empower them to make a choice. And it's being okay with that. You have to be truly honest, to be authentic and to be truly honest, you have to be okay with whatever their response is to what you're being honest about.
Yeah.
You have to be okay.
See,
and that's hard.
And this is what I mean. Everyone needs counselling, and here's why. So we give up that need for authenticity from birth, because what's more important to us than being authentic is being looked after and cared for by our parent, our mum, so we actually get fed. So instantly we give up that authenticity, and that carries on throughout childhood. Like we've got a need and we're crying or whatever, and our parents busy and they can't meet that need, so we shut that down. This carries on throughout our whole lives until we're aware of it and start working through it. Now, when it comes to authenticity, we all have specific thoughts, needs, fantasies, desires, goals, whatever it is. And, we can either choose to reject those parts of ourselves so that we can, stay in that relationship. And we make assumptions that, they can't handle my truth. I will hurt them if I say this. And while that may be true, all you're actually doing is you're rejecting those parts of yourself. And you're using that as an excuse not to tell your partner and not give them the opportunity to actually know, see, and love you, which causes you to always go through each relationship never feeling fully loved.
I think, butting in, I do think that, when you give your partner the opportunity, actually, I just want to correct myself when I was just saying, it's actually, you're giving them the opportunity to see you and that you're giving them a choice, but it's not a yes or no, actually. What you're actually opening up is a conversation, you're actually opening up a space, and also what that enables is your partner that you're giving a choice. It enables them to have boundaries and just fully express what it is that they want or how they may be able to support you. And it enables you, it then comes back to you. It then goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And not in an argumentative, not in a negative way. It is that back and forth conversation between, this is me, and the other person's like, great. Well, you hope they're going to say, great, fantastic. However, this is me and this is how I feel about it. And then it then enables you to create that connection. I mean, it's dependent on who does what or who, whatever you want to do. But it enables that connection. It enables that healing to go hand in hand. And it's no one's going to say that it's not going to be hard, but it enables you both to, I don't want to say
connect.
Yeah.
See,
off otherwise.
my biggest fear has been around rejection, and obviously receiving that message in childhood, going through that religion cult, what I call it now, and believing that there are parts of me that are bad. And basically the message that I received was, those parts are like the doing of Satan, and the ideal that you need to live up to is what Jehovah will love you for. So obviously I've believed that there are parts of me that are unlovable. So that's caused me to shut those parts away. Now, I don't want to continue hiding. This is why I want to be able to open up these conversations. But also it's been terrifying for me, which is why I've never done it. Yes, I've shared more of myself in this relationship than I ever have done, but there are still parts of me that I'm hiding. And it's only because, there's this type of relationship that I want, and I believe that we can have it. But it's, like you say, it's not about me saying, well, this is me, you've got to love me unconditionally. It's not about that. It's about you, first of all, accepting the parts of you that you believe are unlovable. And once you can accept them, then whether your partner can accept those parts of you or not won't be quite as heavy and won't be quite as scary. It's, you're not giving your partner an ultimatum, but you're giving them the opportunity to make their own choice about whether they can actually be in relationship with you. Which, just quickly, I'm just going to quickly finish. But and this is why, and we spoke about this when it comes to the honeymoon period.
Oh yes.
In the honeymoon period, we're all presenting our perfect selves to this potential partner. And everything's all great and, all amazing and fun and exciting. But in that honeymoon period, what you're actually doing is rejecting the parts of you that you believe this person won't be able to handle. And all this does is create a disconnection yourself, but also a disconnection with who you're actually trying to be in a relationship with. And then the longer that goes on, the harder it is to actually open up about those things.
And it's hard to maintain.
It is.
It's hard to maintain. That's why everyone says, oh, you're in the honeymoon period. It's hard to maintain.
Yeah. And, firstly, I didn't even realise that this type of relationship was possible a few years ago, let alone when I was 22, like Charis is. Sometimes I'm still like, I can't believe that not that I can't believe, but I'm in awe that you're capable of having this type of relationship that we're talking about, because it's taken me 30 odd years to get to this point. So I'm by no means judging anyone for, being 30, 50, like we all have our own kind of separate timelines. But what I do want you to know is, and hopefully we're kind of allowing you to recognize that not every relationship is perfect, and it's not about that. But that also doesn't mean that a relationship is shit because you're going to couples counselling. I believe that you go to couples counselling because you want to open up about the things that you both struggle with individually, so you can come together and actually create the type of relationship that you both want. That's why I believe that this is so important.
Well, I think I just want to say on that quickly, like I completely agree with you. To be honest, it doesn't always have to be that you're both going to create the relationship that you both want, because to be honest, me, might as well speak because it's me. I was quite young. Obviously, we worked together. I was 19. Obviously, I'm 22. I'm very mature. But as we go through our relationship, what I've noticed is that I'm figuring out the relationship that I want. I don't know what it is. I don't fully know the relationship that I want. I think you might.
Yeah.
You've established yours. But I'm just still working through the process of what I want. And that's okay. And and going to couples counselling gives me that opportunity to turn around and say to you, well, actually, no, I don't fancy that, or I don't know if that's for me, or that's not for me right now, or whatever. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to go with the complete ideal, because actually what couples counselling is it's learning and it's growing and it's healing together. That's actually what it is.
That is exactly what it is. What you're actually doing is just exploring yourself with your partner so that you can see whether you can actually come together. Whereas I believe if you don't have these kind of deep, triggering, sometimes challenging conversations, you will never know. And then that's where all these assumptions come from, that, I can't say that because that'll hurt, or they'll say no to this, when really all you're doing is you're rejecting those parts of yourself. And I'm done rejecting parts of myself. And I'm so grateful that I feel like I don't have to reject those parts of myself in relationship anymore. And, for instance, one of the things that I really struggle with, and you're aware of this, I know, but like, for instance, because of my childhood and the messaging that I received, when I feel like you're being very direct with me, saying, did you do this, or have you done that, or not even in like an accusatory way, but that makes me feel like my nervous system goes completely AWOL. And I either get really defensive, or I'll just completely shut down and dissociate. Now, it's good to go to couples counselling so we can work through, well, what's the best way to communicate through that?
Yes, because I do just want to quickly say, I don't want to literally bore people to death. But I do just want to quickly say on that, like, as you were saying, like, seemingly normal things to me that I'll say, have you done this or whatever, that you think are, I don't think I can say that word, but whatever it is, the accusing word. I don't want to try and say it because I don't think I can. And then I'll get all annoyed. But you feeling accused by simple things I'm asking you, have you done, can you do, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
When, obviously, as you say, your nervous system has a little bit of a shock and then you start shutting down or whatever, that's when my trauma and your trauma are like waving at each other and
they don't interact.
Hi,
Yeah.
we're not talking to each other because we're not feeling good. And one of my trauma triggers is not being heard.
Yeah.
So, coupled with your shutting down, I'm not talking to you because you're accusing me, and then I'm thinking, well, I'm not being heard and I'm really annoyed.
Yeah.
It's just clash. And the thing is, we didn't even argue because
no,
you shut down.
Oh, yeah, that's why we don't argue, because I'm like, I refuse to have an argument because I feel unsafe, so I just completely shut down.
Oh, then I go away and call my mum. Like, people will then go away and call their friends.
Yeah, and they'll be on the phone. Oh my fucking god! And like you said, all these things can be avoided,
prevented.
Yeah, prevented.
That's why you should go for prevention instead of intervention.
Yeah.
And I think we'll probably leave it there if that's all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So as we said, every Sunday morning, if I say 11 o'clock, maybe log on at about 11:15.
I take no part in that for my personal page. I do not want people thinking I'm lazy and late. I'm a very organised person.
So, yeah, I'm to blame whenever it comes to like lateness. But yes, exactly. That is one of our things. Anyway, next Sunday we'll go with 11 o'clock. Next Sunday at 11, we're going to be speaking about like the weight loss industry and slimming world and my experience being a PT and anything to do with kind of body image and weight loss.
Well, yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm going to take it. I think we're going to go out from the angle of obviously, weight loss, but we're going to go at the angle of obviously you're a PT, blah, blah, blah. And I went to slimming world as a child. You're thinking, oh my God, why? But yeah, we'll go into that next week because I think that's really interesting perspective and how I've carried that from child to now.
Yeah.
And I think it's very relevant for my page, actually. I think I've got quite a few people that do some work, so I'll probably get a lot of unfollows, but that's fine. That's fine.
It's good. Polarising people. That's good.
So.
All right, well, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next week.
I don't know how to cut this off.